Well, hey, all there, Anchor Point small groups. So glad to be with you. I'm currently outside. It was too nice to be inside to make this group's video. So I'm sitting outside in the beautiful fall day. Maybe you're outside as well, enjoying where you are right now, listening to this. And last week's sermon was on the parable of the sower and the seeds. And before I get into that, I want to first of all encourage all of you. I know right now, as you are listening to this, there are many other groups right now across all four of our campuses. Those of you who are meeting up in Friedenberg, how's it going? Those of you who are in small groups down in Cloquet, so glad that you are doing that. Lakeside and also Two Harbors. And I want to just take one quick minute to remind us all that we're one church in multiple locations with the same vision and mission to proclaim the gospel and make disciples. And small groups, the group that you're in right now, you are a part of something much bigger than just your group. And yet you are a part of your group where discipleship happens and proclaiming the gospel to one another happens. And so I want us just to make sure that we see the bigger picture, that we are spread out across the Northland in various locations on Sunday morning, and even in small groups from those locations. And so keep your hands to the plow, keep doing what you're doing. You're making an impact in one another's lives and in the lives of our whole church and community. So to the parable of the sower and the seed, Jesus now explains the parable to those who are following him, his disciples. And he takes time to do this. And what I want to emphasize is there is a sower, there are seeds, and then there's the soil. The sower is any person who sows the seed or communicates the gospel, good news of the kingdom. I find this really fascinating because the sower is non-specific. It's anybody who's following Jesus and believing in Christ. You are, if that's true of you, if you're a believer, you are a sower. And as a sower, as your identity, in Jesus' day, a sower knew what his or her job was. It is to go out every day and into the fields and broadcast seed, because that's who they are as sowers. It's their identity, it's their occupation. And as they're sowing seeds, they also know, Jesus also knew, and the crowds and everybody and his disciples knew, that the seeds fell in multiple soils, multiple places along the ground. But the sower is the one who communicates the good news of the kingdom. It's speaking the good news of the kingdom. And then the seed is the news of the kingdom. In our context, it's the news of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. So we're the sowers. The seed is the gospel that we broadcast everywhere we go as disciples of Jesus. And then the soil are the ears upon which the gospel lands or is heard. So when anyone hears the good news, there are four responses. There's the one who hears it and just kind of falls on the path. It's like, I want nothing to do with that. The second one is it is received with great joy and emotion right away. And people do respond to the gospel with an emotional kind of response. But in the end, it wasn't anything beyond that. It was just an emotion. There was no root in it, and so it didn't last. And then the third kind of hearer are those who they hear it and they receive it, and yet they get worried about stuff. And the worries and the cares and worldly passions and desires choke it, and it bears no fruit, and it dies. And so these first three ears or soils that the sower or the gospel proclaimers lands on are, in the context of Jesus' day, are the Pharisees and the crowds. It's not connecting with them. But this last soil is the one Jesus emphasizes. It produces fruit. some 30, some 60, some 100-fold. And that's what the disciples are about to experience in their life. You follow the life of the disciples, those who truly follow Jesus. They cast seeds of the gospel with people. They communicate it with people, and it lands on ears. But it's not the disciples' responsibility as sowers to make anybody believe. They just bear their responsibility of communicating the gospel and letting it land. And what I find interesting too is there's no timetable on when the fruit's going to happen. It just will happen in time. And so the sower, that's you. If you know Christ, and we know Christ, you're a sower. Your lifestyle, your life rhythm is to tell the gospel to others around you. And then the seed is the gospel. And as you broadcast that seed, it's going to land on different soils, different ears. And there will be good soil that it falls on. There will be bad soil that it falls on. But assume your responsibility and allow God to cause the increase. And so I hope this summary helps understand the parable of the sower, the seed, and the soil. And let's be sowers and bear our responsibility to do that for the glory of God. Love you all. I hope you have a great time discussing the questions now. God bless. We'll see you next week.